It's a complicated thing, and it's ear training. And if you can get a chart, there's charts that have the frequency connecting. You know, it'll tell you which note on the scale, which instruments and their ranges. So, for instance, if you're dealing with a flute, the flute is generally going to be, you know, mids to upper mids and to the high register. So you know you're dealing with in a certain range. You know, piano, you've got the whole thing. You've got lows, you've got highs, you've got mids. The piano's a complicated instrument. Mic placement's crucial for that. But EQ is, you know, getting your system tuned is going to help you find the right places to put your microphones. I spend a lot of time on EQ. I've spent many years trying to figure out what it is and how to make it sound right. There's no basic rule, but I have a technique that I like to use. Some people put a CD in and they can hear from a CD if something's too boomy or too bright or too mid-rangey. I use my voice. It's with me every day. It's the same every day. If I have a cold, I know where maybe it's more mid-rangey or something, and I can compensate by my ear to that. I'll take frequencies and I'll usually take them out. I rarely ever boost a frequency. Generally, it's about taking away stuff that I don't like. There's also breaking down on the graph. If you take too much of some section away, if you take too many mids out, for instance, you're dealing with sound waves, so you're dealing with harmonics. Something on the low end or something on the high end might jump up all of a sudden because you've taken so much of one part of that sound out that it's going to boost something else. So you've got to be really careful not to over EQ something. If you find yourself just pulling tons of stuff out and it's like, oh my God, I don't know where my center is anymore, start over, flatten it out, start again, and try to get your bass setting again so that, you know, generally there's certain frequencies that are resonant in a room. A house engineer who you're working with could tell you, oh man, 160 is really heavy in this room. Take that into consideration, and when you're listening, listen to 160 and maybe take 160 and boost it and see what happens in the room. And if it's like, whoa, that's crazy, you can pull it out a little bit. You really just have to listen. Sometimes people are quick to just move stuff without really listening. And you don't have to do so much, you know. Hopefully, if it's in a good situation, you don't have to do so much. I mean, but that's an ideal situation. So many times you get stuck in a place where the sound system is ancient and it just sounds horrible and it's just, ugh, yuck. And yeah, you got to do some drastic stuff. And that's kind of fun when you can figure out where it is and just like, okay, chop, 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 chop. But if it sounds good, then at least you have a basis to go on. That's your palette. You know, you want to start with a nice clean palette so that when the music comes out, you can work that into that palette. So I think it's super, super important to know, to understand notes, to understand frequencies. Take an ear training course if you don't understand, or take a music course. Learn the basic scale of a piano. Listen, sit at a piano and just run up and down a scale and listen to it resonate. Listen to the overtones. Every note's got overtones, high or low. You can hear them ringing. You'll be surprised actually how much you can learn from just sitting at a piano and just running down a scale and listening to how it rings. Because that's what it all is. That's what the EQ is there to help you do, is to kind of get rid of some of the rings that are jumping out that might be hindering what you're trying to accomplish with the instruments you're working with.